Hi everyone, welcome back to Alice on the Giant Bookshelf. Today's video is my 23 classics from the Giant Bookshelf for 2023. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new. My name's Alice and I have way too many books. And in the interests of reading some of those way too many books, today I thought I would talk about classics I intend to or hope to read in 2023. And I have chosen 23. Not every single one of these is off the Giant Bookshelf. There will be some help required later on in the year. But early on in the year, there is definitely going to be a plan to not buy books. So if it's a book I need earlier on in the year, it will definitely be from the library. And yes, I will see how I get on. Some of these books I have firm plans in place to read them. Others it's a bit more open. I haven't included any crime classics on this list. When I looked at my story graph and looked at how many classics I'd read this year, it told me I'd read 39, but most of those, or a lot of those, were Agatha Christie books that I'd reread. So it's definitely including classic crime. I don't think I've actually read that many classics. I will try and find out, and I will put on the screen the actual number of what I would consider classics or modern classics that I read this year. I don't think it's going to be as many as 23, but we will see. Yeah, these are the potential classics that I would like to read, and I'm hoping to make another video with 23 other books for 2023, which will be my crime, thrillers and mysteries for 2023, which, believe me, I have plenty of on the Giant Bookshelf. So much choice. So yeah, that will be a future video, but this one is all about classics. So I'm going to start with plans that I actually have in place for a specific month of the year. So we'll start at January, a good place to start, and the very first book that I'm going to mention is not actually on my Giant Bookshelf. It is on my mum's bookshelf, and my mum has been slightly hoarding books for me that she thinks that I would also like to read, that she read in the past year or so, and they are on her shelf waiting for me to borrow them. And I definitely want to make some inroads into some of those books this year as well. And the first one, which is going to be a buddy read, is To the Lighthouse by Virginia Woolf. I haven't read any Virginia Woolf yet, and I think this came up in, might have been in Why Haven't I Read These Books Yet? Definitely an author that I need to get to this year, and I thought I would start with To the Lighthouse, and that is booked in for January. The second classic that I will definitely be reading in January is the pick for the FOMO Book Club. I'm running FOMO Book Club with Gemma from Gemma Books and Jack from Spread Book Joy, and our pick for January and February is Jamaica Inn by Daphne du Maurier. I have read 2 Daphne du Mauriers so far, full-length novels, and 1 collection of short stories, and so far I've loved everything that I've read by Daphne du Maurier. I'm hoping Jamaica Inn will be no different, and I'm hoping lots of you will join us in reading Jamaica Inn this winter, so in January and February. I will leave the link to our Discord group if you want to join that below. If you would like to join in with FOMO Book Club, you don't have to be on Discord. We are also going to chat about these at the end of the 2-month period on a live show. I think the live show for this one is going to be on Gemma's channel. Jamaica Inn is a definite must for next year. The third classic I've got is also going to be a buddy read. It's also going to be with Gemma from Gemma Books, and it's one of my Oxford children's classics. I bought a set of 10 of these a lot of years ago, and I have 2 left, I believe, and this is one of them, and Gemma agreed to read this with me in the month of January. So The Adventures of Tom Sawyer by Mark Twain is the third book on this list. I have yet to read anything by Mark Twain as well, so that will be my first experience. In February, I have another book that is not actually on the Giant Bookshelf. I'm hoping it will be on the Giant Bookshelf. I'm wondering if I will either get it for Christmas, or failing that, I will borrow this one from the library, because I really want to join in this read-along that is going to be happening in February, and that is a read-along by Becky over at Teacup the Storyteller. If you haven't checked out Becky's wonderful channel, please do go and check it out in the links below. She is just lovely and her videos always make me feel super cheerful. And ever since I first met Becky on Booktube, she has been talking about The Three Musketeers by Alexander Dumas. It's her favourite book of all time. This year, if you've not been at my channel before, I have finally read my first Dumas, and that was The Count of Monte Cristo. So I'm really looking forward to Becky's read-along, which is going to be of The Three Musketeers, and that's starting in February, so I can't wait for that. Now, there's only one more book that I have firm plans for this year, and that is Crime and Punishment by Dostoevsky. I've had this on my shelf for years, and I've agreed to read this in April, and yeah, I think I've been intimidated by the size of Crime and Punishment, but I originally asked for this as a present because I fully intended to read it. I feel like this is kind of a precursor to some really famous crime books and a big influence, I would have thought, of many crime writers. So can't wait to read Crime and Punishment and see what all the fuss is about. It's been on my shelf for probably 10 years, so it's time to read it in April. Everything else that I have here with me from the bookshelves, I don't have a firm plan to read it. Yeah, if you would like to read one of these classics with me, do let me know. So the first book that I have here is another one that has put me off by its sheer size. I've also mentioned this in Why Haven't I Read This Yet? And it's definitely size is a factor in this one. But it's The Bonfire of the Vanities, a much more modern classic than a lot of books on this list. This is by Tom Woolf. I believe this was written in the 80s. I've had this one for so long, I can't even remember why I wanted to read it, but there was some reason originally. I hope to read this sometime this year. It's high time I got to it, and yeah, it says on the back, a quote from the Sunday Times, "An incandescent sizzler of a novel," which is a really cool sentence. "A day-glow Dickens." So it's got to be good, surely, if they've used the word Dickens on the back cover, but who knows, who knows. I would really love to read this as well this year, because this has sat next to Crime and Punishment on my bookshelf for 10 years or so, and they've never been read, and they deserve to be read, I hope. So yeah, this is a modern classic I would like to get to in 2023. The next two are by Charles Dickens himself, and I'll start off with the one that's a little bit of a confession as well. I showed Dombey and Son on my TBR for Victober. I didn't get to this one by the time I got to the end of the month, because I'd also been finishing off the chunker that is The Count of Monte Cristo. I ended up not really in the frame of mind to read another huge book, and Dombey and Son is definitely the next Dickens I want to tackle, but as you can see, I only got a couple of chapters in. This is actually probably going to be, hopefully, the only book that I do not finish in 2022 that I start again in 2023. I'm not in a headspace for Dickens at the moment. I haven't been in a headspace for any classics, to be honest, since October. So when I do get back in a classics headspace, I would love to read Dombey and Son. The other one that is really high on my list for Dickens is Oliver Twist. I also bought this year, so I hope to get to 2 classic works by Dickens in 2023. What do we have next? Aha! We have another children's classic next, the last one in my set of 10 that I haven't read, and that is Black Beauty by Anna Sewell. Quite a few of these were shown in Why Haven't I Read This Book Yet? Because this is another one I've had for a long time and I haven't read it yet. If you'd like to read Black Beauty with me, then please do let me know in the comments down below. Yeah, I think it would be a good book for a buddy read. I always enjoy reading children's classics. So that's another pick for 2023. We do have on this list, I said there would be no crime, but again, years ago, I bought a set of books. I think it was 10 books, and they were in these Atlantic Books Crime Classics print. And I only have 2 left from that set of 10. I read the others. They've been a bit of a mixed bag for me. So there's been some like outright classics like The Murders in the Rue Morgue, which I think is a great Edgar Allan Poe story. There's been The Man Who Was Thursday. There's been one of the books I think is probably one of my least favourite books of all time, which was The Riddle of the Sands by Erskine Childers. There was a copy of Bleak House in this set, which I have now managed to read. There was Lady Audley's Secret, which was a fantastic book that I read last year. I also read Wilder's Hand by J. Sheridan Le Fanu from the series. So basically they are books that have been selected as crime classics that are kind of books that don't necessarily fit into the crime genre because they kind of paved the way for the crime genre. So I've got two left here, which are The Collegians by Gerald Griffin, and I don't really know much about this one. I think this was written in like pre-Victorian times, which is why I didn't select it for Victober, I believe. Or it was first published in 1829, and on the back this claims to be the best 19th century Irish novel, so I'd love to read this and find out why it paved the way for other crime books. I think it will be good to go into it knowing relatively little about it. The other one has definitely appeared on a previous TBR, and that was Bulldog Drummond by Sapper. This is one about an officer looking for adventure after the First World War, and it actually appeared in my very first ever TBR video, my TBR video for the 1900 to 1950 readathon that I participated in last year. Yeah, I think it was the only book that I didn't actually get to that month, and I still haven't read it, so it's on the list for 2023. I have 4 left in my hands here, but one of these is 2 books. So firstly of all, I have a book that I bought this year on my holiday in the Cotswolds, and it's so beautiful, and I'd nearly forgotten that I had this on my shelf until I sat down to make the video, so I had to quickly bump something else off the list. So we have The Lottery by Shirley Jackson, and I'm really looking forward to getting to more of Shirley Jackson's short stories because I've read The Lottery. It is a masterful short story, and I hope that the rest of hers are just as good. Looking forward to that in this beautiful edition. I also really wanted to read some more Elizabeth Gaskell this year. I've only actually read her short stories and I didn't love them. I loved some but not others. Although lots of people suggested that I start with North and South, the one my mum actually found in the charity shop and bought for me happened to be Cranford. So I have a copy which is Cranford, and it's also Cousin Phyllis. So I've counted this as 2 on the list, 2 books for Elizabeth Gaskell, because we have Cranford and Cousin Phyllis. I don't know anything about Cousin Phyllis, and I know that Cranford is a sort of small village type of book, which I think I will very much enjoy actually. I have 2 more Daphne du Maurier's. We already talked about Jamaica Inn, but I also have on my shelf Frenchman's Creek, which I'm very much looking forward to reading. And we also have Book Avalanche. We also have one that I showed in one of my haul videos this year, The Flight of the Falcon. I would also like to get to this one in 2023. There are 2 more books that are actually available on my shelf. I've listed 2 more classics that I would like to read from my Oscar Wilde book. I didn't end up reading any of Oscar Wilde's short stories in October this year, but the 2 that I have chosen that I really want to read in 2023 are Lord Arthur Saville's Crime and The Canterville Ghost. So that's 2 more classics by Oscar Wilde that I would like to read. That is all I have that's on the giant bookshelf. I have 3 books that I would really like to get to that I mentioned during October. I would really love to get to Diary of a Nobody by George M. Whedon Grossmith. I would really like to get to 3 Men in a Boat by Jerome K. Jerome, and I would really like to get to Barchester Towers by Anthony Trollope, because I really enjoyed reading The Warden in October, and I would like to read the next one in the series this year. That is quite a few Victorian books, but I do really enjoy Victorian classics when I am reading them. And I have 2 authors who I really want to read, one of whom I have only read 1 book, and that was this year, and one who is absolutely a beloved author on Booktube who I have not read any of his books yet. So for these 2 authors, feel free to leave me your recommendations down below as to which one you think I should be on the lookout for, and I will hope to get hold of them. Author number 1 is Thomas Hardy. This year I read The Mayor of Casterbridge. My thoughts for where I would like to read next would probably be Far from the Madding Crowd, maybe Tess of the D'Urbervilles. But if you have an alternative suggestion, or you'd like to firmly tell me to read one of those two next, let me know in the comments. And my second author who I really want to get to is a more modern author, and that is James Baldwin. There's quite a lot about James Baldwin in Things We Have Withheld by Kai Miller, which I really enjoyed reading earlier this year. A lot of my friends have read their first James Baldwin books this year or last year and have really enjoyed them and recommended them. And yeah, I would just like to know what you think are good starting points for James Baldwin, because I'm aware he is such a beloved author on YouTube and I would really like to read some of his books. He will be my 23rd classic of 2023. If I've managed to count accurately, which let's hope I have. Those are all of the 23 classics I'm hoping to tackle in 2023. The list was quite restricted by how many I actually own on my giant TBR. Obviously it would be nice to get the ones read that are on the giant bookshelf. These are 23 possibilities anyway. Do come back next time if you'd like to see the 23 crime, mystery, thriller books that I hope to read in 2023. I think I stand a lot higher of a chance of reading all 23 of those in 1 year. But yeah, that's the end of this video today. Thank you for watching, and if you have enjoyed it, please do give it a like. Please do consider subscribing if you haven't already. As I've said, let me know in the comments, what books would you recommend by these authors? Is there any book on this list that I don't have a definite plan for that you think I should really prioritise? And if there's any book that you are also going to be reading in 2023, let me know. And I'll hope very much to see you all again soon for another video all about books here on Alice and the Giant Bookshelf. Bye for now.